Wolves, Suns, Phoenix Suns dominated their 3-game season series with Minnesota. Each loss for Minnesota just got worse and worse, it felt like. But that was then. This is now. They're 0-0 here on Saturday when they meet again. And, we got the Wolves as the number 3 seed, 6-seeded Suns. Game 1 of that first-round series. Can't wait for this one. Are the Suns the Timberwolves' kryptonite? That's what we're going to find out here. What are you watching in this one, TK?
This is a bad matchup for the Timberwolves. Like, the worst possible matchup. So, for me, this series 100% comes down to Karl Anthony Towns. I think he is the biggest question mark in this series. He's coming back from a meniscus injury. He's played a couple of games, looked super rusty. And who is he going to guard? Like, that is a huge question for me, because when you're looking at the matchups, Conley's going to be on Beal. McDaniels and Anthony Edwards are going to take turns on Booker and KD. Gobert's going to be on Nurkic. So what's happening with Karl Anthony Towns? Is he guarding Grayson Allen? Because that's going to be a lot of wide open catch and shoot threes for Grayson Allen. Or is it going to be switching it up and Towns takes Nurkic and Gobert is the roaming guy?
Right.
He might be looking at some more catch and shoot threes for Grayson Allen. I just think that's a tough position for Karl Anthony Towns. I wonder how Chris Finch is going to scheme this, because it just doesn't make sense to have Towns chasing a small ball 4 or whatever you want to call Grayson Allen or whoever the 4th guy is out there for the Suns. I think there are going to be times when the Timberwolves look their best with Towns playing at the 5 and Gobert resting. That'll probably be the case with Naz Reid. But when that's the scenario, then it's going to have to be Karl Anthony Towns punishing a small ball team, making good decisions when he gets doubled in the post, and getting back to all-star status rather than the guy who's turning the ball over all the time. So a ton of pressure, I think, on Karl Anthony Towns in this. And if you're asking this guy to just make good decision after good decision and not get offensive fouls, that's a huge ask.
Yeah, it's a great call on the Timberwolves' defensive plan overall. Like, this is a great defense. We know that. But this is also a great Suns team in terms of just shooting the ball. They are so good at shooting mid-range shots. They're really good. They shoot the second most in the NBA. The Timberwolves allow the 4th most in the NBA. So how are you going to stop? Yeah, not only their big 3 of Beal, Booker, and Durant, but what's going to happen with Grayson Allen, who is the best 3-point shooter in the NBA. I know I'm extending the range a little bit, but he's had the best percentage this season. So the fact is, they have crushed them all those 3 games, as you said there, Skeets, for this reason, because the Suns are just able to find open shots, and they step up on the defensive end. There's no doubt. We've said the Anthony Edwards numbers, and I'm sure we'll say them again, but they step up on the guards. That I think their guards are just a great match for them. I know it's Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley up against Booker and Beal, but Beal gives it. He gives it on the defensive end. He has been really, really good, and overall, offensively, has been awesome recently. 36 in the final game against the Timberwolves, 6 from 3. The last 12 games, shooting 60% from three-point land. The guy's averaging a steal and a block the last dozen games or so. So it just doesn't look good. Like, the Suns scored 44 points in the first quarter against Timberwolves on Sunday. I know it's the regular season, but the matchups are just not good. That's just the way it feels.
The Wolves have been outscored by Phoenix by 25, 26, and 17 points when Gobert was on the floor in those 3 games. Those are 3 of his 4 worst plus-minus games this season. So it's a difficult matchup for him because of the shooting that Phoenix can throw out there, because of their funky, weird lineup and how they play. Also, the Suns are hot right now. I mean, it's sort of been overlooked a little bit, talking about the Mavs, obviously those teams at the top of the West. And maybe it was a disappointing season overall for the Suns. You know, we took the over on their over-under win total. But they went 10-4 down the stretch. They beat the Wolves. They beat the Nugs. They beat the Cavs. They beat the Clips. They beat the Pelicans. They beat the Kings. They beat some really good teams. Remember, we were talking about their schedule at the end of the year. We're like, oh man, they might be in trouble. They handled that really well. Big part of it was Beal starting to look like old Bradley Beal, and it's just like unbelievable that this Wolves season, as great as it was, they've fallen to have this 3-6 matchup where they get this team that seems to have their number. I'm with you so much, Trey, and I don't like it from the Wolves side of things that Karl Anthony Towns is the ultimate X factor in this, because they have decided, Phoenix, we just get the ball out of Anthony Edwards' hands and we are not convinced anybody else can beat us on your team. And, you know, Cat obviously coming back from the injury and has just looked rusty. him, and I think to some extent, oddly, like Conley, they just have to be huge in this series because they have got a guy in Ant, an all-NBA player, possibly. 26 points per game, this guy. He's averaged 14 against the Suns in 3 games, and they just get the ball out of his hands. They double-team him relentlessly, force him to make a play, and then, you think we're worried about Gobert or McDaniels or, no. So it's got to be Cat, I think, to sort of save the Wolves here. But anyone else on the X Factor list for you, Taz?
It is Cat. That's who I had listed. Is he too good to be an X Factor? I don't know. Just because our All-Stars allowed to be X Factors. I mean, he wasn't.
Oh no, you should be good if you're an All-Star.
So it's really the offense is a big question. The defense is a huge question, but the offense, as you said, he just came back from injury. The first 2 games that he played, he had 10 and 11. That's it. Just 10 in one game and 11 in the other game. And so when they get the ball out of Edwards' hands, Rudy Gobert is not going to punish the Phoenix Suns. Conley, it's unlikely. I mean, we saw good games from Jaden McDaniels this year where he had 28, and there were those moments, but it is going to be Cat on that end because I think that is an advantage for the Suns when it's Beal, Booker versus Edwards and Conley. They've just done a great job, and they've forced those guys to turn it over a ton, over and over and over again. I mean, they had 19 turnovers in the first half the last time they played, 7 turnovers in the first quarter the time they played before that. So, Catman, you got to be awesome. You have to be like really, really good with his offensive players because I know this Timberwolves team looked like they were going to be the number 1 team in the West, but they've had a very mediocre offensive season. They're a middle of the pack offensive team, bad in fourth quarters. So are the Phoenix Suns, actually. So yes. that's strange. It's going to be fun watching fourth quarter games. It might just be a defense fun.
Be a wild card.
Yeah.
And Karl Anthony Towns, we've seen before. That guy can get flustered, frustrated with the whistle that he doesn't think he's getting, or a little contact here and there. This quote from Conley jumped out at me. He said, "We have an emotional team. We have a lot of guys who can get lost in the game, get lost in the referees, get lost with confidence or something like that, in and out of the game."
They were fighting each other on the sidelines
last year. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's true. Punching walls and pushing each other. Yeah, not good. But
honestly, if Cat gets a charging foul in the first 5 minutes of this series, I would not be shocked. And if that happens, I will switch my pick because I'm ultimately going to go with the Timberwolves.
Okay, let's get to predictions. All right.
Yeah.
You're going Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't know why.
All right.
I honestly don't know why. I don't feel confident about this at all. So I feel like I'm self-swerving here. But if the Timberwolves can keep it close, they can win in the fourth quarter because the Suns are just as bad as Minnesota is. In clutch offense, Phoenix is 23rd. Minnesota is 22nd. That's bottom 10. It gets worse because in full fourth quarters, Phoenix is 30th. Minnesota, though, a whopping 16th.
Oh,
that's almost top half. Almost. But it's going to come down to, can Jaden McDaniels score? He scored 25 points against the Timberwolves total this season. 6 in one game,
Suns,
6 in one. Yeah. And 13 in another. They need him to have some confidence shooting the ball because they need his defense out there against all the scorers that Phoenix has. I'm looking forward to Anthony Edwards and Devin Booker trash talking each other. These guys are 2 of the biggest trash talkers in the league, and they're like playing for the same spot. Best shooting guard in the league. I would say Booker's probably like a step ahead because of what he's accomplished, but I think Anthony Edwards is trending up, and maybe he puts them over the top here. It's going to have to be a massive Ant series, which is weird because this is one of the teams that plays them the best and does everything they can to make sure somebody else beats them. So I'm going with my guy Cat. Timberwolves in 7. Towns averages 30 a game for this series.
Man, this guy's coming back from a meniscus tear.
Yeah, he's going to be on a tear.
Yeah, all right. Okay, that's a good swerve. Again, it feels like a series sort of similar to the Clippers-Mavs, where a lot of people are taking the lower seed just because of the matchups here and the way those teams are playing right now. Wolves, Suns, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I'm taking the Suns. I've just believed in them in the 3 games that I've watched, and I know that the Suns had an abysmal moment. I think that's what made you say, Trey, I'm not taking the Suns in the playoffs.
That's right.
They lost by 30.
True.
So that was horrendous. So it is going to come down to which team can do it in the clutch, because I guess they're going to be close games. That's the weird thing of this regular season series. If you want to factor that in, the Wolves have never been within single digits in the second half of any of those games. It just doesn't feel like that's going to happen in the postseason. It feels like it should be closer.
Yeah.
It should be.
Ant's not going to average 14 points per game in this series. He might have some stinkers, but he's going to have some probably huge games and probably get them some victories.
Yeah. But they do double him and get the ball out of his hands, so other guys are going to have to do it, and it could be Cat, that's for sure. I don't know if it's going to be Jaden McDaniels, who there are moments, but I'm not sure about that. I don't know if it's going to be Conley, so I don't know if they have it. I don't know if they have the offensive key here. Maybe Naz Reid plays a ton, but I'm taking the Suns. Suns in, I was going to say just the number of 6 or 7. That's why I was saying but I can't decide. I'll go 7. I'll just go 7, but that would be a win in Minnesota. But it should be a close series.
Very close with you. I'm going to go Suns in 6, but definitely an entertaining series. I'm most excited about this one because these teams, they both the way they're built, have plans to go further than winning one playoff series. I know it's maybe you could say a little early for Minnesota, but not really with the amount of money spent on their big 3 there.